Okay. So here we go. Let's get started. I think we're starting a new chapter. So it says like this in the Torah. Kol chet yamei Chanuka gomrin halel, right? So the rule is that on 8 days of Hanukkah, all the 8 days, we do the whole Hallel, the big one, with the blessings and everything. And V'din kriyato katavti b'ktsatan b'ilchot Rosh Chodesh. So it says, if you want to see the laws of Hallel, look in the laws of Rosh Chodesh. That's where it's brought down there. Umiksato b'ilchot Sukkah. And also in the laws of Sukkah over there, there's brought down a little bit there as well. So, right, women are absolved from Hallel. I think we mentioned that already a couple of times. So the truth is, right, that women don't have to say it, whether it's this holiday or any other holiday. Except, right, there's one night that the custom is to say Hallel, even by the women, which is Leil Pesach, after they come home from shul, the men, right, whatever, and the women are home, whatever. Usually that's the way it is. So, they should also say Hallel that night, the women, on Leil Pesach. That's a custom, in many communities. Some communities don't have this custom, but anyway, right, it's a proper thing to do is like that. But besides that, Hallel, the other Hallels, the women are not obligated to say. So if they want to say it as an optional thing, they can do without a blessing, because to make a blessing would be a problem, would be a blessing in vain. Okay, good. So that's what it says in the Torah. Let's see the Bet Yosef. So says Bet Yosef, he brings a source for this. Perek Bet Eruvin, Arachin, I'm sorry. Second perek of Arachin, Yud Amud Bet. Memra de Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yotzadak, right? These rabbis are the ones who brought that down. The Katuv B'Shibole Aleket. It says over there in this book, Shata Mishum de חלוק בנרותיו, כל יום חלוק משלפניו, הרי הוא כחג שחלוק בקורבנותיו. So he says that the odd time acher. So he says one thing he says is that every day, right, there's a different amount of candles. We add more candles every day. So he says it's like having also sacrifices, he says, which are, getting to a different number every day. Something like that. Okay, and let's see, right? Let's go on a little bit. Not so clear, by the way, what that means exactly, what he's saying, but anyway. The odd tam acher, so he says there's also another reason. Right, so this is also similar to what he said just now. He says, right, that the miracle was being renewed every day. Okay, yeah, so I get the point. So, right, what he's trying to say is like this, that the reason why we say Hallel all 8 days is because every day is a new miracle. That's what he's trying to say. Why is that? Because every day, right, the oil went in a miraculous nature, in a miraculous manner, it went one more day. So therefore, it deserves another Hallel. That's what he's saying. Okay, good. So then he goes on. ועוד שהרי קוראים בנשיאים בכל יום. So it's נשיא שלו חלוק משל חברו. So also another thing he says that, right, each day we read about right, the president of each tribe, right, who brought the sacrifices, and each one is different one from the other. So again, right, you see that he's trying to base it on this issue of differentiation, that each day is like a different kind of a day, it has a different quality, so therefore it deserves its own Hallel. That's what he's trying to say. Okay, good. So that's that. Let's go on a little bit. So he says, right, so he says, therefore, each of the president of the tribe has his own Hallel. Okay, good. That's good. On his sacrifices. So he says it's not proper to do a new reading without reading the Hallel. Okay, so yeah, so right, that's pretty much the story there in the Beit Yosef. So he's bringing you here some reasoning why each day gets a new Hallel and Chanuka. Okay, very good. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll go to Shulchan Aruch. It's a very short chapter, this one. So we'll just read the Shulchan Aruch and finish it. This one. Did already. 1 second. There's 2. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah. There's 2. Okay, must be the next one for sure. Yeah. Okay. So it says here in the Shulchan Aruch, Kol Shmonat Yemei Chanukah Gomrim et Ha'eleh, right? All the 8 days of the Chanukah, we say the large Hallel, right? The whole thing. Because there are other days where we skip over, some parts, right? Like Rosh Chodesh, for instance. So here we don't skip, right? We go for the full Hallel. That's what it means, Gomrim et Ha'eleh. So says Rama here, Chol Shmonat Yemei Chanukah En Omrim Tachanun. So it's also, we don't say Tachanun, supplication, right, on Chanukah, all the 8 days. וצוץ ולמנצח וצידוק הדין. So all these prayers, right, which are omitted on Hanukkah, because since it's a holiday, we don't want to say things which connote sadness, things like this, right? This is the reason why we don't say those things. Okay, good. So then, yeah.
What about Avenu Malkeinu in a time of calamity? We don't say it either, right? On Hanukkah.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Very timely question you're asking. So yeah, the truth is that we do say it because since there's a war going on, this is the reason why.
Okay, thank you, Kavata.
So just to explain that, right, a little bit, what that means, the Chazal tell us, right, that a time of war, it's like a time of judgment, There's a judgment going on. So therefore, it's like, high holy days, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah. So just like Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, we say Avinu Malkeinu, right? Same thing also here, same thing, right? We say it even though there's a holiday going on or whatever, because it's a time of judgment due to the war.
Okay.
This is the reason why we say it. Okay, by the way, the Sfaradim, they even say it on Shabbat.
Avinu Malkeinu, yes?
Yes. Some communities don't say it, but I think the Ashkenazim, they don't say it. But I'm not sure what they're doing during the war, but during the high holy days, they don't say it on Shabbat, unless Shabbat falls on Yom Kippur, right? That's something else. Then they do.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but now during the war, we're saying Avinu Malkeinu every day since the war started. Okay, yeah. So says the Ramah here, this is just a custom, I mean, it's not really an obligation according to halacha, whatever. The custom is like this, that we say that prayer, because it says in the Talmud that it's a very strong prayer, so we're hoping that Hashem will answer us, you know what I mean? Okay. So that's the Shulchan Aruch. Very short. So we'll go to the next chapter because it's a very short chapter. That one, we're done. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, we're almost done with Hanukkah. We only have very little left here. 2 more chapters. And then I guess we'll go to Purim. And then we'll skip over to Pesach afterwards. So this way we'll know what to do during the holidays, whatever, God willing. Okay, so here we go. Start with the tour, next chapter. So it says, right, that the Torah, the Korin Parashat Naso Benesiim. Now he's talking about the Torah readings, right? What parts of the Torah do we read during Hanukkah? So he says we read in Parashat Naso about the offerings of the president of each tribe, right? They call them princes, right? Whatever. Prince is not really the proper word. They're really the president more. That's really what it is. So anyway, right? They reread that portion. B'chol yom, every day, right? Umfaresh b'psikta. So it says in Psikta, this book Psikta, Mishum shenishlam melechet hamishkan b'kafei kislev. So he says the reason why we read that portion is because on the 25th of Kislev, which is Hanukkah, the dedication of the altar was completed there. I'm sorry, I didn't say it right. Not the altar, the tabernacle, right, was completed at that time. That's when they completed building the tabernacle. Okay, good. Umatchilin beVayhi. So he says, where do we start? Vayhi bayom kalot Moshe, right over there in this piece. That's where we begin the Torah reading, the first day. ויש מקומות שמתחילים בברכת כהנים. Some start in ברכת כהנים. ומנהג יפה הוא, so it says good custom. לפי שנעשה הנס על ידי הכהנים. It's because why? Because the miracle of Hanukkah was made by Kohanim. Right? So what does that mean? In those days, right? The Hashmonaim, right? The Maccabees were ruling and they were Kohanim. They were family of Kohanim. So therefore, it's proper that we should mention them on Hanukkah. That's what he's saying. Okay, good. So then he goes on to say, seder bayom harishon. So he says also we read also the first day, the offering of the first day. Matchil bayom kalot Moshe, right? Starts with this, bayom kalot Moshe. The kore oto im kohen Levi. So he says we read it with the kohen and the Levi in Israel. The kore bayom rishon bayom sheni kore kohen ubayom asheni. Right. So he says on the second day of Hanukkah, reads the kohen on the second day, the offering of the second day, ad par echad ben bakar, until this point. Velevi amar, velevi ad ubayom hashlishi, until in Yom Shlishi. Ve'Yisrael chozer u'vekore. So he says Israel comes and reads it again. We reread it. Ubayom hasheni. Then in the second day, he reads the second day. This is also the same thing every day, every subsequent day. So what about the eighth day? We start with the offering of the eighth day, and then we finish the whole passage, right? Till the end. There are places which read until the first chapter, the first passage, Shel Balotcha, over there in the Balotcha, Kedei Leashlim Shel Chanuka Beseder Hanerot, in order to finish the Hanukkah with where it talks about the candles there. Minhag Yafehu says it's also good custom. The Shabbat Shebechanukah. What about Shabbat? What do we do on Shabbat, which falls on Hanukkah? Motzin Bet Sfarim. We take out two books, right? Two Sefer Torah. Be'echad Koreh Inyano Shel Yom. The first one we read, right, the Parsha Shavua. Uvesheni Shel Chanukah. And the second one we read Chanukah. Umaftir Benerot the Zechariah. And then we do the Maftir, right, the candles of Zechariah, which is in the prophets, right? Rani Vesimchi, right, which is also, right, the portion there. Ve'im Chalbo Bet Shabbatot. If you have two Shabbats on Hanukkah, sometimes it happens, right? You have two Shabbats. When does that happen? It happens when it starts on Shabbat, right? Then you have another Shabbat. Okay, so Maftirin b'shniya b'melachim. So it says the second Shabbat we do Maftir in the Book of Kings, Benerot Shel Shlomo, right? The candles of Shlomo. Ve'im chal Rosh Chodesh Tevet b'Shabbat. If the Rosh Chodesh of Tevet falls on Shabbat, Motzin Shlosha Sfarim. Then we take out three Sifrei Torah. The Korin Shisha B'inyano Shel Yom. 6 read the reading of the Parsha Shavua. Uveshniya Koreh Echad Shel Rosh Chodesh. And then the second one is Rosh Chodesh. Umatchil B'Yom HaShabbat. Starts from Yom HaShabbat. Uveshlishit, in the third book, Koreh, he reads Umaftir B'Shel Chanukah. And then he did this Maftir Chanukah. Umaftir Benerot Zechariah, the candles of Zechariah. V'im Chal Rosh Chodesh Bechol. If Rosh Chodesh falls on weekdays, right, then what do we do on a weekday? Bet Sfarim, we take out two Sifrei Torah, right? Motzin Bet Sfarim. The Korin Be'echad Gimel Be'inyan Rosh Chodesh, right? So 3 people read in the first book about Rosh Chodesh. Uveshniya, in the second book, Koreh Echad Be'inyan Chanukah. One reads about Chanukah. That's the way it works. The series of Torah readings for Chanukah. Okay, that's the end of the tour. So let's go to Bet Yosef. So it brings right the Bet Yosef here, the source for this. Where is this coming from? Mishnah Bepek Bnei Ayil. It's in the Mishnah there, Megillah, Lamed Amud Bet, in the last chapter of Megillah. Right, the Chanuka ben Esiim, right, so forth and so on. Okay, so let's see the Shulchan Aruch here. All right, so here's the Shulchan Aruch. It says, Korim bekorbanot hanesiim beparshat Naso. Right, what do we read on Hanukkah? We read the offerings of the president of each tribe, right, in the Parshat Naso. Shlosha bechol yom, right, each day 3. Matchilin bebirkat konim. We start with birkat konim, blessing the priests, priestly blessing. V'yesh omrim shematchilin beyom kalot Moshe. Some say should start from there, right, kalot Moshe. V'chen anu noagim. So he says that's the custom of the Ashkenazim. V'koreh oto im Kohen v'Levi. You read that with Kohen Levi. V'Yisrael, and the Israel koreh beyom rishon. He reads the first day of the offerings. And then he brings in the parentheses, V'yesh omrim she'akohen koreh kol ota parsha. Some say Kohen reads all that parsha, ad beyom rishon, until the first day. V'Levi v'Yisrael korin beyom rishon. And then Levi and Israel read the first day. Okay. V'chen noagim. That's the custom, he says, by the Ashkenazim. Okay, good. Then he goes on. I'm sorry, I didn't say it right. V'chen b'chol b'yom, also every day like that. V'chen noagim, that's the custom. Okay, good. B'yom shmini matchilin. What do we do on the 8th day? I'm sorry, I skipped something here. 1 second. Let me just go back a couple lines. B'yom sheni koreh kohen b'yom sheni. On the 2nd day, the Kohen reads the 2nd day. Ad par echad bin bakar, until this point. V'Levi ad b'yom hashlishi, and the Levi reads until the 3rd day. V'Yisrael chozer v'koreh, and the Israel goes back and repeats it again. What does he read? B'yom hasheni, the 2nd day. V'al derech se b'chol yom, and that's the way it goes every day, right? Like that, in the same order. V'yesh omrim, says the Rama, some say sheYisrael koreh b'yom shel acharav, that the Israel reads the day afterwards. De'aynu b'yom hagimel, the 3rd day, which will be the 3rd day. V'chen b'chol yom, every day like that. V'chen noagim. So the Ashkenazim here do a little bit differently than the Sfaradim. It's very similar, but a little bit of a different nuance there. So each community does right according to their custom. That's the way it is, Okay, so then he goes on. B'yom shmini matchilin. What about the 8th day? B'yom, we start with B'yom hashmini, the 8th day. Right? We read the 8th day, the offering of the 8th day. The gomrim kol haseder, and we finish that whole parsha, that whole passage. The korin parashat rishona shel ba'alotcha, and then we read the first passage of ba'alotcha, which is the next parsha. ונוהגים לסיים כן עשה את המנורה. So he says, how do we end it? כן עשה את המנורה. That's the last words that we say there. Right, so that's pretty much the Torah reading. Okay. So obviously, right, this is only in the synagogue. We don't do this at home. So don't get any ideas. Okay. All right. This is all in the synagogue. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Bet. So it says Bet Yosef, right, regarding what the Torah said regarding the maftir, Pashut b'nei ha'ir. It's also there, right, in the same parak in Megillah regarding the maftir. Which maftir do we read? Right, on Shabbat, on Rosh Chodesh, so forth and so on. Right, the Katav Aran says the Ran, Afal Gav, even though the Nerot, the Shlomo Kadime, that the candles of Shlomo are before that, Afilu Achi Adif Elan de Zechariah says we still prefer the Zechariah. Mishum de nevuot atidinhu. Why? Because they're like future events, prophecies for the future. So, therefore we prefer that, right? Okay, good. Let's see Shulchan Aruch here on bet. So it says Shulchan Aruch like this. B'Shabbat shebeChanuka. What about Shabbat that falls on Chanukah? What do? Motzin bet Sfarim. Right? We take out 2 Sifrei Torah. Be'echad koreh beParashat HaShavua. First one is Parashat Shavua. B'Sheni koreh beShal Chanukah. And second one, you read Chanukah. That's the way it is. Umaftir. What about the maftir? Rani v'Simchi. Right? This is what we read. V'im chalu bo bebet Shabbatot. If you have 2 Shabbats going on Chanukah, then maftir bebet bemelachim. The second one we do in the book of Kings, benerot de Shlomo, right, regarding the candles of Shlomo. Okay, good. So says the Rama here, Haga, v'im chal Chanukah chatuna b'Shabbat zo. So he says, right, if you have a wedding on this Shabbat, maftirin b'shel Chanukah. So then we do the maftir about Chanukah. Okay. So, by the way, you ever, when you read this, right, you should be asking a question over here, which is what? Since when are we doing weddings on Shabbat, right? Chatuna on Shabbat. What's that talking about, right? So obviously we don't do weddings on Shabbat, right? You're not allowed to get married on Shabbat. So then what are we talking about? We're talking about that week there was a wedding, right? So therefore they do a special thing, on Shabbat for the Chatan and Kala. That's what it means. Okay. So that's bet. So we got, I think, one more here. Yeah, so it says, right, regarding what the Torah said about Rosh Chodesh, if it falls on Shabbat, so then we take out 3 Sifrei Torah, right? Where is that written? Perek Bnei Ha'ir, over there, right? Same thing, Chavtet Amud Bet. It's written over there. Umaftir Benerot de Zechariah. And then we do the maftir in this. That's also a right different place, but Perek Mabeh Madlikin in Shabbat, it's written. Regarding what Rabbi asks over there in Chav Gimel Amud Bet, Ner Chanukah beKiddush Hayom, Eze Mehem Adif. Right, if you have right the Chanukah candle or the Kiddush of the day, which one is better? Which one is more important? And which one should you spend the money on if you can't spend on both? Kiddush Hayom Adif. So it says, right, the Kiddush is more important. The Tadir, because it's more frequent. Oh, Dilma, that's one possibility. But Gemara is asking, right? Perhaps that's the way to go. Or Dilma, Ner Chanukah Adif, or maybe Chanukah candles more important. Why? Because Mishum Pirasum Hadisa, because it's publicizing the miracle. Katav Arosh, Mashma Elav Mishum Bepirusam Menisa. So it implies from here, he says that if it wasn't for the fact that you're publicizing the miracle, Tadir Kodem, then the frequent one will be more important. That's the way it will be. Even to push aside something which is not frequent. So he says you do this from here. That when Rosh Chodesh Tevet falls on Shabbat, Shemaftirin Haftara Shel Rosh Chodesh. We should do Rosh Chodesh. Why is that? Because as we said, right, it's more frequent. So it's more important, right? As we said. Velo Benerot de Zechariah, not in the candles of Zechariah. The Tadir Kodem, because the frequent one comes first. Velo Shayach Pirsume Nisa Behaftara. So he says, right, that it's not relevant to say you're publicizing the miracle by reading the Haftarah. Deha Korin beTorah the Rosh Chodesh Kodem, because he says we also read it in the Torah. Rosh Chodesh comes before, and then we do Chanukah. And if it was right relevant, the publicizing the miracle for the readings, so then, right, even to push aside the publicizing the miracle is more important. All the more so to proceed. So he says it's not correct, this thinking, this reasoning. So he says, why? Because for sure, because when you're not able to do both of them, right, then for sure the miracle is more important. Okay, interesting. אבל להקדים תדיר עדיף. But he says, but it's more important, right? It's preferable to precede the frequent one. Because you have also publication of miracle in the end. כמו בתחילה, like in the end. הילקח קריאת התורה, תאפשר לקיים שניהם. So he says, therefore, regarding the reading of the Torah, you can do both them. Tadir kodem, the frequent one comes first. אבל בהפטרה, but so when it comes to haftarah, she'en maftirin ela echad, we don't do one maftir. Persume nisadif. So there, publicizing miracles better, more important. The chevan de Koreh says furthermore, since he is reading Bashel Chanuka the Chanukah at last, yesh leaftir b'may de salikle. You should also continue from there. Like it should be like a procession, be a consecutive kind of thing of one topic, consecutively one topic. The b'kiyat Torah en kol kach pirsum. So also he says that reading the Torah does not so much publicity there. Aval benerot de Zechariah, when it comes to the candles of Zechariah, ika pirsum. There's a lot of publicity there. Hilkach maftirin benerot de Zechariah. Therefore, he says we do. That's the maftir that we do. That's the end of it. V'chen katvu shama tosfot. That's also in Tosfot. Mordechai also the maftirin that they also say that we do the maftir benerot de Zechariah, right? The candles of Zechariah. Velo be'ashamayim kisi, and not this one in Yeshayahu. Okay, interesting. Then he goes on, as we said in the tour, right? If Rosh Chodesh falls on a weekday, so then we take out two Sifrei Torah, right? So regarding that, says the Mit Yosef, Maskanat de Gemara Pek Bened De'ir. It's the conclusion of the Gemara over there, right? In this parak, Katav HaRokeach, says the Rokeach. Pam echad shachach bekara arba beparashat Chodesh. So it says one time it happened that 4 people read right in the Rosh Chodesh. So meaning what? That nobody read Chanukah. They forgot. Right? It was Rosh Chodesh Chanukah, and they forgot to read Chanukah. Sheba beChanukah ve'amar. Okay. Right. So ve'amar. ואם לא היה ספר תורה מבחוץ, לא היינו צריכים לקרוא חמישי בשל חנוכה. Oh. Interesting. So he says, if it wasn't for the fact that the Sefer Torah was already placed outside, in other words, it wasn't returned yet to the ark, we would need to read like a 5th reader in order that somebody should read Hanukkah. That's what we would need to do. Right? B'shel Chanukah. Deha minan, because we say in mashkechin beChanukah upurim kol ikar. So he says, because we said in Gemara that we don't pay attention to Purim Chanukah. Komar, what does that mean? Im lo ikra kol ikar. If you don't read it, it's okay. In other words, if you missed it, you missed it. It's all right. We'll live, but we'll get by. So he says, En nachush achar kol ikar en nachush achar ki kara b'Torah asur likra pam shniya. So he says, no big deal. You know why? Because since you already read the Torah, right, you're not allowed to read it again. In other words, you can't read the Torah twice. You did it, you finished it, you read 4 people read, that's it, you're done. So you shouldn't go back now and reread again. So he says what happens is that the Kohen will read in the place of the Levi. Okay. That's what it says, right, in this book. מצאתי בשם רבנו שלמה מעשה בא לפני רבי. So he says there was a case where, he came to the rabbis, ששכח החזן וקרא 4 אנשים בפרשת ראש חודש. Same thing, right? That they forgot to read Chanukah. They read 4 times Rosh Chodesh. So there was no Chanukah. Nobody read Chanukah. Right? Sheba beChanukah, כמו שרגילים לקרות, like they're accustomed to read בשאר ראשי חודשים, like other Rosh Chodesh, the regular Rosh Chodesh. ואומר רבי, אם לא היה מוציא ספר תורה, לא היה צריך לקרות יותר, דהה אמרינן. So it says, you don't have to read anymore, right? You're done, that's it. En mashkichin b'Chanuka v'Rosh Chodesh, because we said, right, that this is not so crucial if you missed it, whether it's Chanukah or Rosh Chodesh. Kol ikar so much. Aval achshav sheotzi shte Torot, but it says now that you already brought out two Sifrei Torah, it's already out there, you know. Mishum pegamo shel Sefer Torah shnei tzarich likrot. It says now you got to read it because otherwise people are going to think that the second Torah is blemished. Something's wrong with it. Asulu. Okay. So therefore, it says what you got to do is if the Sefer Torah is already out, you should read the fifth reader now for Chanuka. So it's pretty much the same as what we said before, right? As the other rabbi. Same thing. The end, lomar sherevi'i atzmo ikra b'shel Chanuka. We can't say this fourth one is going to read Chanuka, right? The fourth guy, since he already read Rosh Chodesh already. Before he finishes the first Sefer Torah, Rishon, Parashat, Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Chodesh, that would be like skipping. You can't skip around. So therefore, since you're not allowed to skip around, right, this is the reason why you can't do that. It says we don't skip around in the Torah in two different passages. So he says, therefore, since the fourth guy already started to read Rosh Chodesh, Yachtom, you should just finish it, you know, Bivarech and bless. Then the fifth guy is going to come after him, right? V'ikra b'Sefer Torah sheni, reading the second Sefer Torah, b'Shel Chanukah, he's going to read Chanukah. Mutav shebatel ha, it says it's preferable that we should nullify what it says in the Gemara, right? But Rosh Chodesh arba'a en potchin mehem, potchin ben masifinam, that on Rosh Chodesh supposed to have 4, not anymore, and not any less. The Ali Pagim Sefer Torah, we don't want the Sefer Torah to be thought of as, right, pasul, right, not kosher. What about Tosfot? What does he say? Right, Imhu Yom Tov. It says if it's Yom Tov, the Kara Kol Minyan, right? He read the whole number. On Yom Tov we read 5 readers. That he needs to read. But he didn't read, right, the specific, the concept of the day, right, the specific passage of the day. So it says that you should bring the Sefer Torah back, and the other person should read, another person, to finish it off. For the passage of the day. So he says the person who read before him, it's like he doesn't exist, like it's negligible. Okay. But he says Shabbat Chanukah, or Rosh Chodesh Shel Chanukah, right? This is what we're talking, this is what we need over here. Because we're not discussing Yom Tov right now. Right? And you don't have to do that, he says, right? So he agrees with the first two opinions, that you don't have to do that. So again, right, all three of these rabbis seem to agree that if you already read 4 times Rosh Chodesh and you didn't read Chanukah, right, and the Sefer Torah is not there, you already put it back. There's no reason to go back and bring it out again. But we said, right, that if it's already out there, then you should read it, because otherwise people are going to think that Sefer Torah is broken, right? Something's wrong with it. Okay, so we'll do Shulchan Aruch and we'll stop, right? Finish the chapter here. So says Shulchan Aruch like this: Rosh Chodesh Tevet b'Shabbat. If Rosh Chodesh Tevet, which is this month, right, that we're in now, right, the Rosh Chodesh Tevet, falls on Shabbat. If it falls on Shabbat, Motzin Gimel Sfarim. So what happens is that we take out 3 Sifrei Torah. The Korin Vav b'Parshat Shavua. So what happens is that the first 6 guys, the readers, read in Parshat Shavua, the portion of the week, right, the regular portion. Uvesheni Korea Echad b'Shel Rosh Chodesh. Second one, we read Rosh Chodesh. Umatchil b'Yom Shabbat. We start from Yom Shabbat, right? That's how it starts. Uvegimel, in the third book, Korea Maftir b'Shel Chanukah. He reads Maftir reads Chanukah. right? Umaftir Rani v'Simchi, and he does the Haftara Rani v'Simchi. Ve'im chal Rosh Chodesh bechol, but if Rosh Chodesh falls on a weekday, what do we do then? Right? Motzi'in bet Sfarim. So then we take out 2 Sifrei Torah, not 3, right? Because it's not Shabbat. The Korin be'echad begimel b'Rosh Chodesh. So we read the first Sefer Torah. 3 readers go up to read Rosh Chodesh. The Sheni and the second Sefer Torah, Koreh echad b'shel Chanuka. The one reads Chanuka. Okay. So now, right, as we said, so if they made a mistake, let's say, right, and they all did Rosh Chodesh, all 4 of them, because the last one was supposed to do Hanukkah, right? So they made a mistake, and the 4th guy, instead of doing Hanukkah, he did Rosh Chodesh also. So then what do we do? Right? If they didn't take out the second book yet, second Sefer Torah, you don't have to read anymore, right? That's it, we're done. You can finish right there. Because we're not so particular about this, that you didn't read the Chanukkah passage. But if you already took out the second book, second Sefer Torah, so then what you got to do is open it up and read it, right? A 5th guy comes up. Even though you're not supposed to have 5 people here, you're supposed to have 4. Because it's Rosh Chodesh. But nevertheless, since it's already out the book, right? It's sitting out, so then you got to read it. Okay, good. So says the Ramah here, ואם טעה והתחיל לקרות בשל חנוכה, צריך להפסיק לקרות בשל... So it says if he made a mistake, and he started to do Hanukkah, in other words, he started to do Hanukkah first, before Rosh Chodesh, which is not the proper way to do it, right? Rosh Chodesh comes first. As we said, what's the reason why Rosh Chodesh comes first? Because it's more frequent, right? So he says, in a case like that, the Ramah says, צריך להפסיק לקרות בשל, you got to stop reading, right? בשל Rosh Chodesh. You got to stop there and do Rosh Chodesh. So he says, right, if you started, stop and do Rosh Chodesh. Because you did the wrong thing. So then he goes on, ואם צריך לברך על קריאת ראש חודש, עין ידי אל סימן קמ"ם. So he says, what about, do you have to make a blessing? Right? So he says, look in the other chapter there. He talks about it over there, right? If you need a blessing here, to make the blessing. Okay, very good. So I guess we'll stop there. We're done with the chapter. Very good. Baruch Hashem. We have one more chapter left, so Bezat Hashem will be done this week. We'll be done with Hanukkah, and then Bezat Hashem will go on to Purim. Unless somebody has an objection, right, about that. Okay, so otherwise we'll... Okay. So, okay, thanks for coming tonight. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness. Bezat Hashem. See you tomorrow. Chazak Baruch, Laila Tov. Pray for the success of our amazing soldiers who are doing the most amazing job there, cleaning out all the Nazis, denazifying the land of Israel. Baruch Hashem. Amen ve amen.
Kavod Harav, thank you so very much.
Amen. Chazak Baruch. All the best.
Thank you.